obviously some objection to it for the people who really liked that anyone can do anything, but were so exciting that it was hard not to do it because of all the cool stuff we got to add from making your class choice matter. It's going to be really... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's going to be really interesting to see how it actually affects build diversity, and how many builds we're going to have where you're going to have rangers playing the Juggernaut for this or that bonus that it has, whether we're going to further move classes away from their own identity or push them more towards it. Probably there was too much similarity between the classes previously, and this opens up a lot more. Well, we've kind of got to see how it plays out, but the reaction has been so positive to this stuff that it's hard to say that it's a bad idea when there's so much interesting stuff going on. There was too much so many new builds between the classes, and also just making previously in this character choice up a lot more, matter way more. Like, well, we've kind of got to see how it plays out. The game will be less of a wrong choice now because you have it's new varieties you can do, and also just making, but I'm pretty sure it's choice up a lot more. Matter way more. Like, well, we're going to want to see how it plays out. The game will be less of a wrong choice now because you want to try out all these builds on different ascendancy classes.
As far as the new player experience is concerned for ascendancy classes, there's no real way to see what ascendancy classes you're going to have available to you when you select your class. Is there any, like, if you guys thought about putting on the class selection screen, maybe some like little tidbits about their ascendancy classes, like where they... As far as the new player experience is concerned when selecting classes,
players have, then we deal with that, but already a new player seeing the passive tree for the first time is kind of overwhelmed. Telling them that there's going to be even more important choices based on what you're choosing right now is going to turn away more players than it actually lets them make the right choice. And we've made all of the ascendancy classes so there is always a path you can take that can do whatever build you want. If a brand new player decides they're going to play a two-handed Cyclone Witch that just does attack bonuses, there's still something in the ascendancy classes for the witch that let them do that.
That's an interesting segue into my next question, is because in most cases, for most builds, there's going to be something for your class that works. I think that's true. But there is some cases where, like, for example, people are concerned about trappers and summoners in particular, some of the more niche playstyles, and how the ascendancy classes for those respective classes are very much going to be the best choice.
Yeah,
how are you guys feeling about that?
We've kind of known all along that there are going to be some really powerful bonuses for ascendancy classes that are going to feel mandatory for builds. Whether they actually are when you crunch the numbers, when you compare it with the specific bonuses that other classes are getting, well, that's something we have to crunch the numbers for. But if there is a really powerful bonus that it feels like you can't play the game without for one build or another, we're probably going to introduce it in another way, be it on a unique item or something like that, that lets you, like, it doesn't restrict trappers to the shadow only.
Oh, that's good. One of the things I'm worried about is, like, let's take the new Pathfinder, for example. You know, the balance around unique flasks is they don't have surgeons, and surgeons did just get nerfed, but it's still very strong. But now unique flasks can have surgeons, and with Vessel of Ink there, Taste of Hate, and Rumi's Concoction existing, and so many flask nodes on the tree, is there going to be any kind of, like, balance tests beforehand? Because that's just ridiculous.
Oh, it's definitely something that we have been testing and made sure it's not too good. Compared to the other Ascendancy passives, it's a way higher skill build than, I mean, this isn't a build that anyone can do, even if they have the flasks, because keeping your flasks up all the time and the sort of the build way you need to build your character is very different compared to some of the other classes, which are just straight up a boost to damage and defense. The unique flasks are tricky because we aren't seeing as many people using them as we're expecting, considering the power level that they have, but they're Yeah, it's really hard to say because they're not seeing the use we're expecting. They're not fitting into as many builds as people. I mean, people are often building towards them and getting the relevant benefit, but not that many people are actually doing that. So it's tricky to say.
It's just like the high level meta. It's one of those classes where maybe only high level gameplay will choose. I'm just
Yeah, it's intended. I mean, it was designed by one of our most experienced high level players as the thing that he wanted to play and the thing that he wanted to do. He didn't want straight up damage bonuses or defense bonuses. He wanted something clever, something that felt really different, that changed how you play and gave you a massive boost for focusing on this one mechanic.
So out of all the ascendancy classes, Rory, the thing that I think most people are worried about, we have 6 points. Once you lock in that point, is there any way to even respect these points first off?
Oh yeah, they cost. You can refund them with the same refund points that you do the regular tree. It's just way more expensive per point than it usually is. So
they take like 5 refunds or something, do they?
Yeah. I think that sounds like the right number. Yeah, so it's going to be a costly thing to do. You can't do it all the time, but it is possible. And the same for changing your class. I'm pretty sure there's a very expensive thing you can do to change your class if you really regret your choices.
Okay, so there's a way to change the class too. That's good. The next thing I had is which out of all the ones out there, because like power creep is going to be pretty real next batch. Which one's your favorite? Which one out of all of them do you love the most, Rory?
It's tricky because I worked on the way we did the classes is that a bunch of designers all got a class to look after. I had the Marauder and the Duelist to start with, and then later on we took over. I mean, once people had done their designs, Neon and I took all of the classes and reworked, because everyone had very, very different strategies. Like all the classes to start with had very different power levels, very different directions, different levels of specialness, and so we have since gone back and iterated on them. The Duelist is probably going to get some changes to his nodes already, because already since we revealed the Duelist, we've made some changes to the power level and the philosophy of all of this stuff, and there may still be rebalances before release. The numbers aren't final just because, well, there's so much to test with all this stuff, so many possible builds. So as to which one's my favorite, I'm probably kind of like the Inquisitor the most, because he pushes his theme so well. Like you get I really like when we came up with the idea of using consecrated ground for him. This is just the perfect fit for the character. As for which one I'm actually going to be playing, I'm probably going to be playing one of the Shadows builds. I think the unreleased one. Wait, have we revealed them all yet?
I mean, we can right now. I mean, no qualms here, Rory. You can get in trouble back in the office, but we won't mind.
It's the Steve Ascendancy class, where a guy called Steve turns up and just helps you out.
Steve from Minecraft, confirmed working with Notch. All right.
That non-sponsorship.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to just hanging out with Steve. Just having a good time. He doesn't give any combat benefits. He's just a chill guy to have around.
Just a chill guy.
Yeah.
Is the hideout ascendancy class?
Yeah.
buffs to the hideout. Well, I'm glad you said that. I thought you were going to be like Scion, but I can't say why.
Oh. And we're all curious what the Scion is. I mean, that's like the most hype of them all, because it's like one Scion to rule them all. This is it.
Yeah,
what are they going to do with it?
I was all excited to see what people said about the Ascendancy classes, which revealed, and it was all just, what's the Scion going to be?
That's it.
So yeah, no, the Scion's going to be real interesting. It's just like the most of the interestingness of the things. Yeah, no, I can't say anything else.
As beautifully eloquently put, Rory.
I've been working on the Scion this morning, and I thought I probably shouldn't be doing this, because I'm just going to accidentally let slip that she has access to Steve as well, or something like that.
I see.
Oh.
She doesn't have access to Steve.
It's just like I theory crafted.
Where is this conversation?
Scion, you always have Steve.
This is blowing up. In order to prevent myself leaking spoilers, I've invented Steve, so he'll help me out.
Steve.
Oh,
So
man.
with these guys, as Zeno said, we're having some obvious power creep because a lot of these things are very powerful. But you guys are obviously retuning things as a counterpoint to that balance. And I think you mentioned that on another podcast you're on recently as well. What So what my question is I feel that you get this power creep and then it's rebalanced so that you're not really much more powerful in relation to the content, but you have more choice. Is that kind of the idea, like the end goal of it? Because people are really excited about ascendancy classes right now because they're strong, I think. I feel like people get hyped for things that look really strong, and that's typically what people say. But what I'm more interested in is it being more choice. And is that kind of like where you guys are looking to take it?
Well, yeah, obviously the choice is the whole point of the ascendancy classes, so you've got more interesting and more impactful choices, like making them feel like they're making a difference when you take them, while making them not too powerful has sort of been the challenge all along. There's boosts to damage and attack speed beyond what we would even put in the regular tree, just because it needs to feel, when you've got those conditional bonuses that don't always happen, that that you notice them right away without having a buff icon or effects going off. So it's been really tricky, like trying to keep that low. We've made some changes, we've made some additions, most notably new stuff added to Cruel and Merciless difficulty, like actual new content as opposed to just turning the numbers up. But at the same time, despite these really impactful bonuses, they are not as big a power boost as they first look. There is multiplicative damage increases, but they don't really compare to some of the other damage increases you can already get in the game from some uniques and items, and sort of the ways that builds are made. It also comes down to making the most powerful builds less powerful, the ones that are sort of the current meta, having less of a, shifting the meta so that there is a more diverse choice of skills in addition to these choices of ascendancy classes, and at that point you reach the sort of same power level as we have now. Like, obviously Bladefall is very popular, and there are some other skills that are very popular at the moment, which will either be getting balance or mechanical changes just to have them fit with other skills that are sort of the intended balance, and then the ascendancy classes will boost them up to the sort of top tier builds that we've been balancing around.
There's kind of a bit of an argument with people falling on, one of two sides of ascendancy classes will reduce build diversity, and other people on the other side saying it will increase build diversity. It seems like obvious that a dev would fall on it would increase build diversity, or otherwise why would you be doing it? But do you fall on that side of the argument for that? And why, I guess?
Whenever we release any new content, especially if people haven't had a chance to play with it much, and it's not just straight up more damage numbers, it's going to increase build diversity for a time until people figure out what they want to be doing. The biggest reduction to build diversity is people being able to communicate with each other and say, I've tried this out and this is the best. And we're going to get that no matter what maybe one of you guys is going to say, like, this build here, this ascendancy class feels far more powerful than the others, and there's going to be a shift in that direction. And in the same way as we have with skills, we're probably going to get some number tweaks to these ascendancy classes if one proves to be superior numerically. But the idea is that you want to be able to try, it opens up more potential builds. It's really for the Johnny player that's about trying new things, and those eventually turn into spike things, whichever ones are successful. There's always going to be the thing that is calculated to be the most clear speed or the most damage.
Johnny beta testing for spike.
That's usually how it, that's Valspark in a nutshell right now. Let's be honest, it started off as a Johnny and then ended up a spike, and that's it.
I
wonder if melee summoner is going to be that way, like this.
Oh yeah.
That's I think that's like my lead example when I'm talking build diversity in relation to ascendancy classes, is this idea of, well, a melee summoner doesn't really exist that much apart from dominating blow right now, but this is going to open up some interesting potential there.
The amount of health return and mana return you can get from or just health return from Bone Offering alone with an Aegis build would be crazy as a witch,
Yeah. There's a bunch of crazy stuff. Ideally, there's so much crazy stuff that no one knows which is the most efficient, or that they each have their own strengths and weaknesses. Like, there's a lot of things in these trees that can protect you from stuns in one way or another. But so there's going to be a lot of people that care less about stuns, but then they're not putting their points in the things that are giving the crazy damage increases, or the things that protect them from ailments, or the things that give them more mobility. Ideally, the build differences will be the strengths and weaknesses, rather than the amount of damage that they're outputting.
All right, well, we got about 10 minutes left, and there's some quick balance questions we wanted to go over here. The first and foremost is the Victor's Flask. You know, for a while now, Leech is like, back in March when beta came out for the Awakening, Leech was kind of changed drastically. We just got some more attack style Leech, so we can Leech with elemental type attacks now and chaos type attacks. However, Victor's is just some next level crazy 30% Leech mana like in life, and what the heck? That's all I have to say.
Whenever the topic of Flask comes up, I'm just like, a lot of the time I feel like I can answer, like, for you guys, my perspective on what I think you guys are going for with things. But with Flask, I just don't know how to answer. What's going on with Flask, man?
What's up with Victor? It's just like so crazy.
There is a lot of discussion among the developers on this. I don't even know which side I'm on, because both sides have some really good points. And I mean, the main point for them being so powerful is that the fact that there are flasks, the fact that you have to use them, the fact that you need to be doing damage and of a certain type of damage, and it needs to, and the leech is, I mean, the leech being instant is sort of the biggest thing, but then you could get that anyway by taking Valpact. The amount, I mean, obviously there's a cap on leech if you don't have a instant leech, so that's just making your leech go to full, but then having a leech support gem gives you that all the time for free. There's a lot of trickiness with the balance that makes it hard to quantify, and it kind of also comes down to the fact that not that many people are using this. Although there's a big buzz around it and everyone's talking about it, it's surprisingly way lower in the stats than considering.
I mean, it's a bit difficult to get your hands on. That's the main reason why there's not many people using it.
They're like 20 C in hardcore.
Stat in relation to that?
They're like 20 chaos right now. They're so cheap. I mean, maybe because Havoc and ETUP haven't used them yet. I mean, Taste of Hate is still the premier, oh my god, OP, until you put on a Victor's and you're like, what the heck have I been missing out on? You know, it's just that strong.
It's kind of, our stats have shown that, I mean, Taste of Hate is more powerful, is more likely to receive a nerf just from the numbers that we've got and the actual testing that's been done with it by our high level experts. But there's constant discussion about this, and everyone has their own opinions on what the right power level for this stuff is. There's more changes to flasks themselves and the base flask stuff that is coming in the Ascendancy that makes it even harder to work out whether these unique flasks are still going to be as powerful or perceived as powerful as they are at the moment. It's really tricky. I'm certain there's going to be a change.
That you activate a flask and you really freaking notice that it's active. But this is what the main thing that confused me about Vinctors is that it still has two uses and that you can have 100% uptime on it. Like, it's not hard to achieve 100% uptime on most of these flasks, Taste of Hate, Vinctors, things like that, even with just one of them, or close to 100%, you know, effective uptime when you would need it. Like, that's the biggest part that confuses me, is the fact that it is so easy to have these up for so long. Like, Vinctors has a decent, you know, the regular duration, you can still get the two uses out of it. So it's not at all hard to get, like, just the flask nodes in Witch and have, or like a, you know, like a belt mod and have 100% uptime.
Yeah, there's constant discussion about it. I don't even have that strong opinion compared to other people on this stuff, because there's so much. I mean, there's a lot of testing, a lot of balance testing was put into these flasks before they released, because we wanted them to be powerful. Like, you're doing a lot to get these things, and they should have a big impact on your character. You should be making full use of them when you've got them. You're obviously usually giving up a second flask slot to purge the shock off you with the Vinctor's flask and that sort of thing. So there are costs to your character, and also now you're using the belt that has the extra flask recovery, which you might not have used previously, which makes it, I mean, doesn't mean that it's not still super powerful. It just means that is how big a cost are you actually paying for using it. It's really hard to figure out. and which is why there's so much discussion, and why I am sort of on the fence about it still. Everyone has good points, and it's really cool that there's this thing you can work towards in the game. Like, there's not many RPGs that don't have some awesome item that people are working towards that has some sort of... And this has a lot that you need to do to get it, and so it should feel awesome when you do get it, right?
It's just one of those things where it's like I have to use a Life Leech gem and Warlord's Mark to notice my Val Pact on like a CI build, for example. But then I can put on a Vessel of Victor with Physical to Lightning, and I'm like, whatever, you know? It's like, good to go. It's just, I don't know, I didn't understand it until like you actually mess around with it. I was messing around with it last and I was like, this is just crazy.
I saw someone with their only lightning damage coming from Herald of Thunder, and they were healing to full with it instantly.
Yeah, heal to full, like that. Ugh. It is what it is. You know, I'm sure plenty of testing still.
Yeah.
Let's go into the next one. It's been 9 months since the reduced mana gem has been changed. You know, back in the day, you had like a level 15-ish or so reduced mana. You could run Hatred Grace. Now you have to spec into something like Charisma or get Enlighten. How do you feel over there at GGG with the reduced mana change?
Well, this is sort of something people... We have to keep the power level of auras and of heralds lower than we'd kind of like because of the cost, and even after the reduced mana change, people are still using an awful lot of auras, and it's such a big... Despite the change in power for them, it's still... Although it's such a big investment, it's so mandatory. It's kind of ruined our mana, like how it's changed how we have to think about mana quite a lot, because now people absolutely want to use auras, so now they only have 10, 15, 25% of their mana pool left to do it.
Yep.
We'd rather that mana pool be higher, and that so we can do more stuff, like so that people maybe occasionally want to use a mana flask or something like that without having Mind Over Matter. But it's sort of, I'd rather that people had less of a reason to use more auras, and turning the reservation costs down and removing the reduced mana was a shift into making it so it's less of a cost on your character, while still costing more mana at higher levels. It also came down to how flasks felt at low levels. Now how auras felt at low levels. Now people can use auras more easily at low levels before they get reduced mana, or without needing reduced mana, which made it feel like a choice when you first picked up the gem, not as impactful on how you're actually paying for your spells.
Do you feel Enlighten would, the whole purpose of reduced mana was you don't feel that need for it, but still it's like you still need Enlighten for some of these things. Do you guys like the redesign of Enlighten?
It's a good reward for a late game high wealth character that they get to have another aura, or they get to have more mana. Having reduced mana feel mandatory for so much of the stuff was, it was sort of, if every single person's using the same support on heaps of their skills, which is just reduced mana on all their auras in this case, then you might as well build it into the skill. And Enlighten was really just, no one was using Enlighten. We wanted a use for it, and we wanted something for a high-level character to be able to do to improve their auras if they really, really wanted to. And so that was the solution that was come up with. And I think it's worked well enough. Obviously, people would rather get it for free, effectively free, like they did with reduced mana. It's now actually something you need to work towards, but your build will still function without that third or that fourth aura. So it's not like we're destroying build diversity, we're just reducing the power of some characters by cutting accessibility.
I feel like a lot of the problems with this topic have kind of resolved themselves through the implementation of more and more auras, and especially like 35% things like blasphemy. Yeah, I feel like that has been like a solution, because now often instead of like being like, well, with this build only really needs grace and hatred, so I need to get charisma. But now I'm like, well, I might just run blasphemy and hatred, or blasphemy and grace.
That's
so
good.
I feel like that's solved a lot of the problems there. But were you guys thinking about that ahead of time?
Not necessarily with blasphemy. The heralds were kind of the thing that was originally there to be the cheap thing that you can use instead of an aura, to give you an equivalent power level without having the sort of crazy group synergy of auras and all that jazz.
The problem with heralds though is that they're 25%, which is like people are gonna hate me because they're like, no, don't ask for increasing things. But I actually like that blasphemy is 35 over 25 because when you take when you run hatred and then you're like, all right, now I'm gonna run Herald of Ice and Herald of Ash together, or Arctic Armor and Herald of Ash together, and you're 100%. So you need to get the aura reservation nodes again. Whereas blasphemy, you're like 50%, 35%. You're like, okay, now I just don't worry about investing in aura stuff. Like I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting how psychology pushes that stuff so much rather than actual. Yeah. It's one of the biggest problems with the mana reservation thing is that people want to be as efficient as possible, and in doing so, often make themselves less powerful or less efficient, or just make life a bit harder for themselves. And there's nothing really we can do about that. So I'll make them 35%, seeing as you asked so nicely.
Oh, come on.
Now chat's blowing up already, but just I don't think heralds need to be 35%. But I like that blasphemy is 35%.
We're gonna get a Reddit thread for you, Ziggy. Good job.
Jumping the bus again.
Oh no. Can we just talk about Steve again, please?
Unless it's Herald of Steve.
Herald of Steve. Feel Steve, man. Oh, geez. Well, I think that's all the questions I had. Do you have any last-minute questions you want to ask Rory? We're about an hour now.
Any questions I want to ask?
Yeah, you said you wanted to ask Ziggy and I a question on Skype earlier to throw us off and put us in the pressure seat for once.
No, I got nothing. I got nothing.
Got nothing.
You guys.
Nothing?
Next time you'll have to make a primer of your own, Rory.
Oh man. Well, I appreciate you coming by today, Rory. You answered a lot of very important questions the community's been wondering. Thank you. And I mean, I know that you just did another podcast over there at What's Up Reclass, so the amount of community involvement over there at GG has been pretty high, especially with you. So cheers. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, Rory, you deserve a Christmas bonus, bro. Yeah. I know it's not Christmas,
but...
I deserve a Christmas. Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's always fun to hang out with you guys and say things that I'll regret saying later. No,
that's it.
I just imagine now after the podcast, you like walk out into the wide open office and everyone's like, "Boo! Why'd you say that? Oh my god, it was supposed to be secret."
Can you guys throw in an Easter egg when you release the next Shadow class? Somewhere in there, just put like Steve in the art or something. Just Steve. Just do it.
Turns out the Shadow's name was Steve all along.
Oh, that's it.
That's secret.
It's not Steve. It's Barry. No, his name's not. I can't reveal his name. It's top secret.
Okay. Steve Barry confirmed. All right. Well, thank you again. That's it, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Rory.
Thanks
That's
for
awesome, man.
Thanks everyone out there for tuning in for episode 46. I hope everything goes good and Ascendancy gets released sometime mid-March. I'm excited about it. Cheers.
Me too. See you guys then. Catch you later.
All right, bye.
Bye. State of state.